If you heard your mother's voice behind the door, but saw two glowing yellow eyes staring at you from underneath it, would you still open it? Elif thought she was alone that night. The city's power was flickering out, street by street, and even the lights outside her apartment were dying one by one. She sat in her living room, her cat Mira curled up on her lap, the only warmth coming from a small lamp in the corner. But Mira wasn't sleeping. The cat's ears were raised, her gaze fixed on the front door, sensing something Elif could not see. The silence in the apartment was absolute, a heavy blanket that made every creak of the old building sound like a scream. Then a sound broke the stillness, a sound that didn't belong, the doorbell. But it wasn't the familiar, cheerful chime. It was a slow, lifeless tap, like a dead finger brushing against the button. Ding! A long, agonizing pause. Then, dong. The sound hung in the air, cold and metallic. Elif froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. Mira let out a low, guttural hiss, her body tensing. Elif didn't move toward the door. Her instinct screamed at her to stay put. She fumbled for her phone, her fingers trembling as she checked for notifications. No missed calls, no messages, nothing. The world outside her apartment seemed to have vanished. Then came another sound, this time from the doorknob. A soft inward pressure, as if someone was gently, patiently pushing it. The metal bent forward with a faint creak, and a sliver of cold air seeped into the room from the crack beneath the door. The air smelled of damp earth and something else. Something ancient and wrong. Mira growled, a low, menacing rumble deep in her throat. Suddenly, a voice whispered from the other side, a thin, metallic sound that scraped against the silence. Elif, open the door. I'm cold. Elif's breath caught in her throat. The voice, it was her mother's. But it couldn't be. Her mother was out of town for the week. And the tone? It was hollow, distorted, as if filtered through water and static. It lacked all the warmth she associated with her mother. It was inhuman. Mom? Elif whispered, her voice barely audible. The question hung in the air, a fragile thread in the oppressive darkness. The voice came again, closer this time, glitching like a corrupted audio file. Open the door. Daughter. The word daughter was stretched out, a grotesque imitation of affection. Mira couldn't take it anymore. The cat lunged toward the door with a furious hiss, then scrambled back in sheer terror, her fur standing on end as if she'd touched an electric fence. At that exact moment, the lamp in the corner flickered violently. In the strobing light, a shadow materialized at the end of the corridor. But it wasn't just a shadow cast by the dying light. It was a shape, tall, impossibly thin and distorted, like a human figure stretched on a rack. Its limbs were too long, its neck bent at an unnatural angle. It was a silhouette made of pure darkness, a void in the shape of a man. And from the center of its featureless head, 2 points of light ignited. 2 glowing yellow eyes, staring directly at Elif. The creature didn't walk, it didn't step. It seemed to hover, its form leaning impossibly through the solid wood of the door, even though it remained closed and locked. Its shadow, cast on the wall by the flickering lamp, was a monstrous giant, 3 times its already terrifying size. It tilted its head, a slow, deliberate motion accompanied by the faint sound of cracking bone. Then it spoke, and the voice was no longer her mother's. It was a deep, husky tone that tickled a long-forgotten memory from her childhood. You can't go anywhere without letting me in. The words unlocked a fragment of an old story her grandmother used to tell. A chilling local legend meant to scare children into staying indoors after dark. The gatekeeper, a creature of shadow and deceit, one that mimics the voices of loved ones to trick its victims into opening their doors. The legend said that if the door is open, the darkness enters with the creature, and the homeowner is never seen again. Their home becomes another gateway for the entity. A long, shadowy hand, composed of the same inky blackness as its body, placed itself against the inside of the door. The wood began to shake violently, as if a battering ram were slamming against it from the other side. The entire apartment trembled with the force of the impacts. Boom, boom, boom. The sound was deafening, a primal rhythm of destruction. Mira let out a scream like meow, a sound of pure, unadulterated fear. Panic finally broke through Elif's paralysis. She scrambled off the sofa and ran to the kitchen, her mind racing. She remembered an old, heavy-duty flashlight her father had left in a drawer. Her hands shook as she found it, its cold metal a small comfort. When she returned to the living room, the violent shaking had stopped. The creature was no longer leaning through the door. It was inside the corridor. Its presence was heavier now, the air thick and cloying. Its glowing yellow eyes were brighter, burning holes in the darkness, fixed on her. With a surge of adrenaline, Elif flicked the switch on the flashlight. A powerful, focused beam of light shot across the room, striking the creature directly in its face. The effect was immediate and violent. The creature recoiled as if burned, letting out a high-pitched electronic hum that vibrated through the floor and rattled Elif's teeth. The shadow-like form convulsed, then collapsed backward, not falling, but being sucked into the wall like smoke into a vacuum. The hum faded, and the terrifying presence vanished. Silence returned. Heavy, absolute silence. No whispers, no knocking, no glowing eyes. Mira, still trembling, slowly crept out from under the sofa, her gaze never leaving the door. Elif stood there for what felt like an eternity, the flashlight beam cutting a path through the dust motes in the air. She took a shaky breath, then another. It was over. Just as a sliver of relief began to warm her, she heard another sound. A knock. This time it was different. A normal, solid, human knock. Knock, knock, knock. Clear and steady. Then a voice called out, warm and familiar, laced with concern. Elif, sweetheart, open the door. I'm home. It was her mother's voice. Perfectly normal. Every inflection, every nuance was exactly as she remembered it. It was the voice that had comforted her after nightmares, the voice that had sung her to sleep. Relief washed over her so powerfully it almost brought her to her knees. It was a trick. The power outage must have been making her hallucinate. She took a step toward the door, her hand reaching for the handle. "Mom, you won't believe what just happened," she started to say. But before her fingers could touch the cold metal, a flash of grey fur shot past her. Mira, with a desperate yowl, slashed at her outstretched hand, drawing blood. The sharp pain snapped Elif back to reality. The cat stood between her and the door, a furry, hissing guardian, her pupils dilated into black pools of terror, her back arched and fur on end. Confused, Elif looked down. She looked at the small gap beneath the door, and she saw them again. 2 pinpricks of light in the inky blackness on the other side. 2 bright yellow eyes, glowing with malevolent patience. At the same time, the warm, motherly voice from outside began to distort, to stretch and glitch, just as it had before. "Daughter, open the door." A final whisper slithered through the crack, right at her feet, inches from the other side. It was no longer imitating anyone. It was the creature's own voice, a sound of dry leaves and ancient dust. "If you open it, you're mine. Never open the door."